Yeah, being broke and good looking as a man gets you nothing. Being broke and hot as a female gets you everything. I think just listen to you, if you really understand this, it actually is such an advantage to know how it all works, be really aware of it. That's why someone should come near you.
Huge advantage.
This is a huge, just understanding the biology, the history, and really the formula. To me, this is a set of rules. And if you know the rules to play, you can advance to the next level. So many people are trying to win in life, but they're not playing by the same set of rules that me and you are playing by. Hard to break through the algorithm if you're never going to try to understand these rules. So first you got to understand them, and then you got to figure out how to create demand in your life. Bottom line, end of story. But it's funny. So I work with a lot of women too, probably more women I work with, which is weird. It just is what it is. I work with probably more women. But what I find is I do this work, especially with women. So many women are coming and say, how do I find a you? I hear it all the time. Eric, can you help me find a guy? Can you help? Like, it's like a panic in women, especially women that have maybe been divorced. They're at 40 years old. They feel like the clock is ticking. It is a pressure cooker. And now I'm trying to teach people to have standards, like all the things, but it's like, well, this is tricky. There's actually not a lot of high value people that exist in the world. You're right. It's a tiny class of people that actually have real demand.
Yeah. And the thing with women, it's really great. I have found that I love having women in my program, but selling advice to women doesn't seem to be quite the same business model as selling it to men.
Totally.
Because I feel like a lot of women's advice stuff is people like taking advantage of women by telling them what they feel. Like, for instance, the 5 love languages. There's no science behind that. That's absolutely no science behind the 5 love languages.
Interesting.
When people believe in The Secret or stuff like it's like there's no science behind any of this. Joe Dispenza, that kind of stuff. There's no science behind it. When you get into that kind of stuff, then what happens is what you have women is like you'll sit there and you'll evoke emotion in them instead of giving them what's really great feedback. Sure. Here's a great piece of feedback. For instance, this concept that, hey, a man didn't call you back because he was intimidated by you. Ladies, if you care about your friends, stop giving them this terrible advice. No man was intimidated by you. That's not why he didn't call you back. Just like I don't like pickles, that's a preference I have. And often you hear women say, I don't want to date a man who's shorter than me. That's a preference you have. If I'm dealing with a woman who works 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week, makes a whole lot of money and doesn't have time for me, I didn't break up with her because I was intimidated by her. It was a preference that I had. When you tell women, well, he was intimidated by you, then what you're doing is saying, you don't need to do anything to improve yourself or a relationship. It's all his fault. And when you do so, you create a cycle where the woman continually gets disappointed in relationship after another. When men give other men advice, the first thing we tell each other is no one's going to save you and you're accountable for your own solutions.
100%.
If you're getting advice from women about women and it does not include those two things, stop listening.
Good point.
Stop listening.
I like that.
You need to be the advice you understand is if you are consistent, if you complain to your therapist that the last 5 guys you dated were narcissists, it's not their fault. After 5, it's not their fault anymore. It's your fault. Yeah. There's something inside of you where your antenna is cross-wired, or you're not quite calibrated, or you're way too sensitive to certain stimuli. And you need to do something to fix it. A piece of advice, another 2 pieces of advice I think I don't agree with, and it is very controversial. Number 1, just be yourself is utter and complete nonsense. If 80% of men are deemed unattractive by women, then just be yourself is a way for women to figure out who the losers are quicker. You need to be your most improved self in the gym every day, trying to build your business, trying to read 40 to 60 books a year. You need to be improving yourself. Just be yourself is horrible. And the second one is you're enough. No, you're not. You're not. You can believe you're enough if that makes you feel better because you're suffering from PTSD. But I promise you, if you're working a sales job and somebody tells you you're enough, you're going to lose your job. And if you keep believing, if you want to date a super beautiful woman and then you keep believing it's okay because I'm enough, she's going to leave you. Yeah. You're going to lose your job and you're going to lose your girl believing you are enough. No, we are valuable in this world because of the value we bring to other people. Totally. We realize it's not all about us. It's what value can I bring to others? And when I bring value to other people, then all the riches and status and all the networking and all the cool friends and all the cool travel places, they come to you. But we don't like to believe that humans are that shallow, when in reality, if you just look at any preliminary evidence, it's clear that they are.
Yeah, it's really good. As you're speaking, I'm considering a lot of the instincts, even in my own self, just trying to reflect on my own existence. I'm 40 years old now, so I'm looking back on my life. And I wish I would have had this mindset at 21. I'd be so deadly. But at 40 years old, I'm thriving as good as it gets. So it's really easy for me to frame some of the instincts I had as a kid growing up, the things that were my experiences that turned me into my reality. And you're right. The whole thing is right. I always trying to push the limits of what's possible, be that next version, understanding like the small details and why they matter so much, especially as it surrounds around environment, status, like the connection to all these things add up and you can transform. I think the big point is that you're probably beneath the surface saying is that you can become that person quite quickly if you commit. It doesn't take long for a man to get status if he understands the rules to this game, right?
So for men and women, gaining status as far as networking, business, leadership is concerned, these are definitely things that you can learn.
Sure.
And for men, we have a rite of passage. Almost all men have to go through it, whether or not you play on a football team, you join the military, or you're like the junior associate at a law firm. You always have to go some sort of rite of passage.
Sure.
Some women do too. I had two female squadron commanders while I was in the Air Force. They had to go through a rite of passage as well. So that's the case. But when it comes to attractiveness, men have to go through a rite of passage. Women, not so much. Women can play the game on easy mode. If you are a 19-year-old girl and you're very attractive, there's no rite of passage you have to go through. You don't need dating advice to become more attractive. And you don't need experience with men to get more men to want to date you. You're just attractive. As a man, though, we have to become a thing that other women find attractive. Sure. And that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, being broke and good looking as a man gets you nothing. Being broke and hot as a female gets you everything. Like it's a gateway into a mansion. If you're a female.
Eric, let's take this to an even darker place. Okay. How about the concept of this? If you're a man and you have autism, your likely, and you're just a normal dude in a vacuum. You're not super rich or good looking. If you're a man and you have autism and you try to approach women, you're going to have a really hard time. Totally. If you're an attractive woman with autism, men don't care. They don't care.
It's a dark place.
And I'm not trying to equate Amber Heard's autism, but like, I just want you to consider, ready? I know your audience probably weren't ready to hear this today, but I want you to consider how smart Elon Musk is, how much money this guy's worth, the incredible frontier that he's put humanity on. This man is going to be remembered for thousands of years. Sure. And he put his in Amber Heard. Always remember that. Just no matter how smart you think people are, he put his penis in a woman who's on a dude's bed. Yeah. You just never forget that. So when you realize that, it's like you're asking before, Eric, it's like, well, these women are saying, hey, I need to find a good guy. A lot of times our emotions drive us into the wrong place. And people, a third party, like a great example would be you giving them advice as a third party. So a lot of times you're going to give better advice to a woman. Why? Because the dude she's talking about doesn't turn you on. He has no effect over you.
That's a great point.
You can see this thing dispassionately.
Sure.
Right. But as a lot of times as men and women get turned on like a blowtorch. Yeah. And then we start becoming extremely reactive. Women act delusional and think that men, because they slept with a 10, that they can get a 9 to commit. And men act delusional because they watch some pornography and think women act that way. Yeah. And so both sides get delusional because of that. And that's essentially what 100%.
I wonder, as society goes on, where does this end? Is this going to get worse? And is it getting worse in real time, quickly and compounding fast? It seems like the role of a male and female is getting very confused. Children, or I don't know what the future of children is, but it seems like there's a powerful force trying to their minds. Am I wrong?
I think from our standpoint, if we look at the lens of modernity, we're going to say it's going to get worse. But I think 100 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, oh, this is just the way things were going to get. I can give you a couple examples. Wow. There's going to probably be a point, Ray Kurzweil talks about this in his book, where women are able to have babies with other women. They're able to take 23 alleles from 2 women and put them together and have another child. Wow. When that happens, they're not going to need men. And there's also going to be a point, most likely, where we have androids that are so similar to humans that men will start to date them. And at that point, men won't need women. So is that better or worse? Well, it seems like it's worse, right? It's probably going to have a population collapse if you see something like that happen. Also, when you come with the concept is like, are things better or worse? When you're dealing with a species, remember, there's 400,000 elephants left on the planet and 8 billion humans. What's better or worse when there's 8 billion of you? Like we won on the game of planet Earth. We beat everyone. We became the apex predator, and we filled every habitable portion of the globe with our stink and filth and poop. We did that. And so you ask yourself, what's better or worse? There's no selection pressure. If humans live and they're happier, whatever, like I've always said this before, the day that artificial intelligence takes over, like truly takes over society, will be the happiest day of your life, because you're going to be in a holodeck somewhere, living out your dreams with your fantasy family and your fantasy wife in your fantasy vacation, and living so incredibly sedated and incredibly calm and relaxed and happy. And that day, while you're doing that, AI has taken over the entire world and you won't even care. Like that's the future, honestly. I know it sounds very negative and dystopian, but that's the future I see. And so what I'm saying is, on the way to that Is that good or bad? I mean, it's up to you, what you think.
You know, you
on the way
paint
to
a
that,
unique picture,
why not
bro.
use those tools to your advantage? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, you can't control it all. You might as well leverage what you can to try to create fulfillment that means something for you.